Hey, welcome and thanks for tuning in to the Aftermarket Podcast that never, ever disappoints. Carm Capriato here, the Aftermarket Podcast guy, delivering a vast array of smart audio lessons from the essential voices of the aftermarket. And I thank you so much for making the podcast a part of your continuous education menu. I'm with Matt Manzone and Jim Fleischman. Now, Matt's an ASE certified master tech and service writer, and he works at Jim's shop, Automotive Alley in Arcade, New York. We recorded this live on Halloween 2020. Why this interview? Well, Matt is a former dealer technician. Hearing the reasons why Matt Manzone went to work for an independent is important to how you think and approach hiring dealer techs. Jim also shares some of his process to bring Matt on board to work in his company. We discussed the differences of techs at dealerships against techs at independent shops. And Matt and Jim also talk about the dilemma of leaving your job of 14 years for a same yet new job. The talking points can be found at remarkableresults.biz/E588. Now is the time to transform your shop, break away from your legacy SMS, and embrace Shopware Shop Management System. Shopware can show you the way to increase profits from happier customers and a more efficient staff. Such powerful reasons. Visit getshopware.com for a free preview. Tell them Carm sent you. You know, the Virtual Apex Experience 2020, it's in the record books. It was great. Now, I must say that Virtual Apex did live up to presenting leading-edge technical and business management training from some of the industry's best and brightest. Now, set your sights on the homecoming in Las Vegas in 2021. I can't wait. Mark your calendar now, November 2nd through the 4th, 2021. Apex, now more than ever. Please check out the books page on the website. New entries are there. And always remember, leaders are readers. remarkableresults.biz/books.
I wanted to be 100% sure.
And the wife said, are you sure, Matt?
Initially, it was kind of her idea to start looking, you know.
Because she saw you coming home unhappy.
Absolutely. There was actually, a time where she was like, you got to do something.
And during this process, Shelly and myself had met with Matt and his wife, and we went to dinner just to make sure that she could see how we were. Yeah. And it's not just Matt coming home telling her how we were.
Hey, more with Matt and Jim in a minute. Now, don't forget to watch the Aftermarket's really cool live informative video show. You can watch it live on aftermarketweekly.com and binge on all the archived episodes. Big feature, besides my guest host, is a shop tour. Always good things to learn on aftermarketweekly.com, a most unique aftermarket resource, and find a ton of great ways to filter your listening topics right on the website, remarkableresults.biz. Hey, everybody, a warm welcome to Matt Manzone, who's working right here. Actually, I'm here inside of Automotive Alley in Arcade, New York, and I'm with owner Jim Fleischman. Hi, Jim.
How's it going, Carm?
Matt's a technician here at Automotive Alley. You probably remember us doing a live auto aftermarket weekly here at Jim's place.
Yeah, we had some technical difficulties that day.
Yeah, and you're the biggest geek that I know. And it was so funny. After we were all done, we actually laughed so hard. Did we go to the bar after that because we goofed up so much?
No, we should have, though.
We should have. Jim's been a great friend for many, many years. The place is about 20 miles from where I live. And when I discovered that Matt Manzone worked at a dealership and now he's working here at an independent, I asked him if he would be interested in telling his story, and he said yes. So here it is on a Saturday morning. We're here, studio set up in the lobby of Automotive Alley. Really, really sharp business. We are all so concerned in our life and in our world about filling our bench, and we think a lot about hiring technicians that are at the dealership. They're either not happy or they're looking. I remember doing an interview with a technician from a dealership a couple of years ago in Raleigh. And he says, I'll never go to the independents. That's too hard. Was he right?
There's definitely more to know. A dealership gets you a very specific type of work day in and day out.
Day in and day out.
Yeah.
Flat rate. And you have to know how to work that.
Yes. That's a mind game in itself to stay productive. And
you're diagnosing something at the dealership. I mean, you don't go as deep as you do here at the independent, do you?
No. Lots of times it's heavy diagnosis is usually warranty, because if something is going to cost that much diagnosis out of warranty, they're probably going to go to some place with a lower labor rate which is usually what people assume they get out of an independent. Not always the case, obviously, but
that seems to be the perception. Huh?
The perception, is that it's just going to cost too much if we go to the dealership. So generally, you're doing it under warranty, and warranty isn't well known for kind of supporting you in diagnosis. Yeah.
You went to a automotive technology college and in Pittsburgh, Wyotech?
Yep.
And was it a 2-year program?
It was a 9-month program.
9 month, full time. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 8 hours a day.
And where did you go to work right out of school?
Out of school, started at a Toyota dealership.
See, there you go, everyone. That's what happens. 70% of the grads go to the dealership. Now you're an independent. You're an anomaly. As you were telling me off mic, so many of them leave the dealership and go to other industries.
Yep.
Give me some idea of where they went.
I saw people leave, quite a few people leave to go be corrections officers. We have a couple jails locally, so that's always a thing people do. And I saw some people leave to go work for towns and villages, whether it's their garages or not. Some people just left to go work for the water department because flat rate can burn people out to the point where they want anything but flat rate. They just want a paycheck, Can really psychologically take a toll on some people.
But it wasn't flat rate plus a kind of an incentive or a bonus. It was just pure flat rate.
It was flat rate, but you had flat rate hours turned, and then there was a scale, a progressive scale. So the higher you turn, the higher your pay was per hour.
Okay, got it. I understand. Some of the techs would leave and go to other industries. Were you prompted by an ad? Jim, did you run an ad? Where did you come to meet and discover Matthew?
We were on the hunt for some more technicians, and then we did run a couple Facebook ads.
I think you came across my thing. I think I had it on Indeed. I posted my resume.
Yeah. So, sorry about that. Yeah, but we did post a Facebook ad out there, and we were hunting on Indeed also.
You were taking a multi-pronged approach. Did you want to leave? Were you fishing?
I had some issues with the way things were being run. We had some changes and this and that for a while. And there was one day where things were just particularly, the vibe of the shop was rough. And I was like, you know what? I just don't know if this is the environment I want to be in. Got a long time till retirement. So I was like, I just don't know if this environment and people's attitudes are where I want to be. So I thought, put it out there. I'm not going to go apply at places necessarily, but I'll see if, what's out there. I actually happened to be sitting in a car with a scan tool when Jim had called me and said he ran across my resume and wanted to sit down and talk.
And how soon after that was Matt hired?
Matt interviewed us. He did some research. He found a couple of your podcasts and listened to a couple podcasts and met up with us. We sat down probably almost half a day.
Did you have the rest of the team hang out with him?
We did. We had Matt work with the guys. He came, worked a couple days, and then it was kind of a working interview. Had him work with everyone here, and then I worked with him quite a bit because my focus was to have him do some other things than we did with just a regular technician. So we're trying to kind of a hybrid, have him do some service writer stuff and as a technical technician also.
Jim said you interviewed us. What was your approach?
I had been at the dealership at that time for 14 years. And it was, like I said, it was a week out of school that I got that job. So it wasn't necessarily my experience of going shop to shop. Like a lot of people, you're in your dealership, you talk to a lot of guys that have been shop to shop to shop, and they say that's the only way they get raises. And that's
most of the guys come and go like that. You see that commonly in a dealership world is that guys are always jumping job to job to job.
So,
dealership to dealership to dealership.
Mostly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Usually not independent back and forth, but yeah, dealership brand. Lots of times we have, we had 3 or 4 options for that brand locally.
Wait a minute. So you mean the strategy of hiring inside the dealership network is to steal a tech from the guy down the road over the next city, because we know if we pay him another 1 or 2 or have a different plan, we're going to get somebody. And you guys, it just leapfrog?
I saw that often.
Okay.
I saw guys come from our place from the, we specifically had another dealership that was probably the closest one to us, Northhounds versus Southhounds. And I saw people leapfrog back and forth. Most of the time it was, we're talking to a guy and he's going to come. And it was just that guy using it as a ploy to get a number.
Does that work?
It works a lot.
So you did an in-depth interview here. And what did you learn? What were some of the questions?
Well, initially, I was like, all right, what kind of shop is this? I've never heard of them, and the first thing I did was just look it up, and I saw on the Facebook post kind of some of the stuff they do and how the shop looked. And I was like, okay, it seems pretty professional and nice. And actually came across your podcast with the interview. So I listened to that. That gave me a nice insight of kind of how they perceive the industry and the way they run their shop. And
I never thought of that, but maybe I did. Anyone looking, because I've interviewed how many shop owners in the U.S. A great way to get to know the person you want to go to work for is just listen to one of the shows I've done with them, right?
Yeah, it was actually really helpful.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I owe you a buck.
Yeah, it was a selling point,
Yeah. It was before meeting, having just that idea of, how these people operate.
All right. Your impression then when you got here?
It was good. I think anybody, even customers, when they walk in, they, see where we are right now, that it's not typical what I would say you would have in your mind of a garage where you walk in and there's fingerprints on everything and there's a stack of old magazines.
He just said something so interesting, Jim. He said, it's not the typical, stereotypical independent, and I don't want to put any adjectives inside of this, but you said it was nice, but that's where we're headed as an industry. We're headed to clean. Mm-hmm. We're headed to nice. We're headed to bright.
Mm-hmm. Now, sterile.
There's a good word. You do have a very sterile environment here. It's a wonderfully clean and organized place. Did you like that part?
Absolutely. Knowing that somebody takes the time and pride and just the investment to be organized, be clean, the equipment works, because I would say it's probably most people's experience who have worked in a shop that, you always got to futz with this machine to make it work. And you always got to do this. And we just kind of get by with one of these. And
Tom Ham was on aftermarketweekly.com this past Tuesday. It was episode 25, everyone. And he brought a survey on environment that he wanted the technicians to take a look at and rate them between 1 and 10. And he did a wonderful, beautiful rant on, are we really caring enough for our people and the environment we give them to work in? You just said you liked what you saw.
Yeah. It's obviously a smaller operation than the dealership. So there's the ability for everybody to kind of know how everybody's doing. We say hi every morning, we say bye every night. And, there was people I worked with for years that I maybe had a conversation with.
When Matt started, I think it was his first week, Matt didn't say bye. That was a major problem.
For you.
Yeah. And I think the next day I said, Matt, we go around and say bye to everybody before we leave. And so we had to correct him. And he thought
because he never knew how to do that. It wasn't.
He thought I was joking at first. Go around and say bye. If we're here, there are times when somebody's not here or might not be here if you gone in the morning or something and not make it back. That's a little bit different. But if we're here, try to make a point to go around and, hey, see you later. We'll see you in the morning.
It makes sense, that we do that because obviously you're like most people's work. That's who you spend most of your day with. So you try to keep, positive attitudes and make sure everybody, and even if somebody's having a bad day, it works just so you kind of know. You can just either help them or kind of get out of their way.
Hey, Carm here. And coming up, Matt explains why he really left his 14-year job at the dealer. Hey, auto repair is a high-dollar, high-value transaction, and your customer sensitivity about how much it costs and why is never more important than when you ask them to pay the bill. While these conversations can sometimes feel awkward or uncomfortable, it's important that you don't fall down and cheapen your services at the final step. Shopware's shop management platform now offers a solution that helps you showcase the value and sophistication that you've invested throughout the repair. With our innovative digital workflow, customers can review, approve, and even pay for services right from their smartphone. Let remote pay work for you and improve your customer experience. Get started today. Visit getshopware.com for more information and to request a demo. Hey, the Virtual Apex Experience 2020 is in the record books and brought the best and the brightest together to create an experience like no other. I was so impressed with the breadth of topics and world-class trainers who presented at Virtual Apex. And Virtual Apex, well, they delivered on their commitment to the service professional and provided seminars dedicated to technician and business management training. And Joe's Garage and Repair Shop HQ highlighted the commitment Apex has to the service professional. The great news is that all of this was recorded and it's available on demand on the virtual platform until December 5th. So if you earn your living in the aftermarket and you value training, product demos, and meeting your industry peers, Apex 2021 will be your best destination. Mark your calendar right now for Apex 2021. It'll be November 2nd through the 4th in Las Vegas. Be there for the great homecoming. Listen right here to learn when you can start registering. How long did it take you to feel part of the family here?
Pretty quick. Everybody was nice, and especially because we said we did the working interview, so I probably worked 3 or 4 days here, kind of mingling with everybody. And
tell me how you made that work. Was it you were or weren't working? How did you find the time in your day to get here and do that?
We worked a rotating 4-day shift.
Okay.
So there was times where I'd have Wednesday, Thursday off, or I'd have Monday, Tuesday off, and so we just kind of coordinated those dates.
So how long you been here?
It's been 4 months.
4 months. Yeah. A whole lot harder work, right?
Different work.
I like that.
Yeah, it's different. There was things that were challenging at the dealership, but when you work for a car manufacturer and they come out with recalls or service bulletins, and sometimes that's kind of turned into my role, was fulfilling all those recalls because you had to be a certain certification. I'd been there long enough that I was a high level of certification, and it almost became like a assembly line. My day would be
factory worker.
Yeah, I could walk in and grab they would all be laid out on a parts counter, and you could walk in and grab a handful of them, and you just got a stack of ROs on your toolbox. And
so you were just a machine in the production line. Kinda,
and it actually, you talked about diagnosis and how much time you spend on it. You almost don't always have the time to verify 100%.
It almost degrades your ability, your technical ability, to logically diagnose and go after a condition.
But Jim, you're still looking for production and efficiency from your people. I mean, you don't have all the time in the world.
No, absolutely. And I think we always owe it to a customer. We still have labor times that we have to adhere to and, try to be productive on that. Whether or not that's how your pay is based, that's how the business operates, is that you make time.
So you've had no problem adapting to this life in this world of the independent. It's only 4 months. I get that, but you're comfortable in how it's working here for you?
Yeah. I mean, there's always room for improvement. You worked at a place for so long. I knew every call I could make on the job, whether something was the way we were going to do it or was the way we were not going to do it, or, if it was something we were just going to take care of or not take care of, and that's something you have to learn at a new place, is what calls am I trusted to make and what calls are the way they would do things. Is it something that, oh, no, we always take care of that or this or that, or we usually leave that to rely on the customer if they decide they want to upgrade to that or this or that,
You'd recommend to a friend to check out an independent?
Yeah, I think that, we talked earlier, perception is everything. So if you want to be a mechanic and that's your goal and you were stuck in a position where you felt unsatisfied, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't move to a different part, not even an independent, a different part of the industry. Like I said, we see people leave because one aspect of the industry doesn't fit the way they want to live their lifestyle, but there's other places. There's all kinds of different garages that all run differently. There's probably one that fits,
Would you do it again, Jim? Hire another dealer, tech?
Yeah, I would. I mean, it's all about the right person. It's the right attitude and the right persons. If we honed in on somebody that was in a dealer atmosphere, then I think we need to get them here and make sure that they work with everybody.
Part 2 of my question, have you ever in the past, been in business a lot of years, interviewed a dealership tech and not pulled the trigger to hire that person?
Yes, many.
What was getting in the way? Why did you hire Matt over the others?
I think Matt's attitude and openness for different options, I think, was a critical piece. I mean, some of these people that we've interviewed were pretty stern in regards to this is the way we're going to do it and this is the way I've always done it. We didn't kind of go down that route. I think Matt had a lot of open-mindedness, wanted a good challenge, knowing where he was coming from.
You saw in him that he wanted to make the transition.
Yeah, and again, this was before COVID started. I think we worked with Matt for 6 months. Almost. Yeah. Prior to bringing him on board.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, there were some big gaps, because of stuff going on, especially with COVID.
You guys were having a 6-month, if you will,
affair.
Dating.
My wife would laugh. We'd go meet for breakfast to talk about this or that. And next thing you know, it's like 3 hours had gone by. She's like, what do you guys talk about?
Well, there's magic right there if that happens.
Yeah. I was like,
don't you think you're on the same page with so many things?
And again, it's the car industry. It's the car industry. So, I mean, there's a lot of things to talk about. Yeah. So it was interesting for me. And my wife, Shelly, said the same thing. Like, you were there this whole time? Yeah, we were there this whole time. And she knows that I have no problem talking for a long period of time.
That's like when me and you get together.
I know. Yeah.
Well, and for me, it was like I had mentioned before. I mean, it was a big deal for me to leave. It was a giant step in my life. I have a house and 2 kids and a wife and a place that I had been very comfortable with and made a good salary. And I wanted to be 100% sure.
And the wife said, are you sure, Matt?
initially it was kind of her idea to start looking,
Because she saw you coming home unhappy.
Absolutely. There was actually, a time where she was like, you got to do something.
And during this process, Shelly and myself had met with Matt and his wife, and we went to dinner just to make sure that she could see how we were. Yeah. And it's not just Matt coming home telling her how we were.
That whole get together with the wife thing is critical. Did you find that was an important step in the process?
Yeah, I think it was a good way for her to be comfortable. Also have a different perspective at it. Maybe if she sat down and was like,
I can see why you and Jim spent all those hours together talking. I can see that because he's a warm and genuine person. I had a chance to meet his wife who works in the business, and you're going to be working with her. That's part of the magic in the process.
Happy wife, happy life. Is that what you say, Carm?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Part of the draw was that it wasn't that corporate sit down, do you fit in our box, and maybe we'll take you. It was like.
Are some of the reasons that some of the technicians at the dealerships that are frustrated, they're just like you, don't make that decision because they're comfortable with the routine?
I would say 100%. That was the biggest hurdle of going, am I ready to walk away from the place that I've walked in for over a dozen years and been the guy who turns the light on in the morning, and I walk over to the coffee machine and I turn it on and I say hi to this guy.
What will they do without me?
Got to make the donuts.
Not so much that. Not that I was worried that they were going to fail without me. That's a big machine. Doesn't necessarily care about the teeth on the cog as long as they don't make a noise when it spins around.
Wow. Wow. That was a wild but great analogy.
Yeah. So it's going to work. There's people I miss. I'm sure there's people that, miss working with me. And the routine is probably what scares people from leaving any job, especially when we've been that long. The big issue was, is it going to upset any other things besides just, work, pay, this and that?
Well, everyone's fear is the unknown.
Yeah.
Take me to the day that you gave your notice. They obviously had to do something to keep you. You were a 12-year employee?
14.
14, okay.
Yeah, almost like 14 and a half.
Yeah.
I remember actually print, because I don't have a printer at home, so I did print it out, the letter at work, and I was like, all right, my team leader, we had a bay in between us. We all had two bays. So we had a bay, his extra bay was in between us, and he was down at his laptop on his toolbox and I was on mine. And he turned to me and was venting about something, about the way things were being done. And I was like, honestly, I've had enough too. And I'm actually printing out my 2 weeks notice right now. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I think it's time. And so I handed in my 2 weeks notice, obviously with shock, my service manager was a little shocked. And I think he thought I was playing the game of,
because that's what everybody sees in this industry is that.
And I had specifically, when I had sat down with Jim and I had let him know first, like, I'm going to hand in a notice this day and this will be probably my last day.
And I think during that time, I said to Matt also, I go, I'm not playing the ping pong. I think that was one of the comments. I go, I'm not playing ping pong ball. You're going to play us for a raise or something different in his end. And he goes, nope, I'm not. I go, I just need to know.
But here's the deal. What if you went back and they doubled your salary? You realize that he is not going to make you a different offer. Basically, you made an offer. And if you came back to them and they doubled and he would say, God bless you, man, you would not sit down and have any further discussion. I mean, that was your point, right?
Yeah, no,
okay.
Here's what
we had discussed that.
Okay.
I wasn't leaving because of money. Some time actually went by where nobody has said anything. And I was like, that's strange.
That usually happens though.
Yeah, and I was just like, I made the comment to my wife, like, yeah, I'm sure that's just to call my bluff, and it's like, but I had told Jim, I said, when I make the decision, I'm making the decision to leave. I'm not going in there to negotiate. I'm just going just to let you know, and I did everything on the up and up, and I didn't want to leave on bad terms. I had no reason to. I just was time to move on.
As far as Automotive Alley in the business, it added credibility to Matt because, again, we're all fearful that when somebody says, I'm going to put my 2 week notice and start on this date, until that next day after their start date, when that person's on your property with their toolbox and it's there, that's the reality of, okay, this worked out. We have the person that we talked to for X amount of time. So on our end, to have the credibility when the person said they were going to do something, it happened, was huge.
It was his word, and his word was his bond, and that helped your relationship with Matt. We've done shows in the past on ghosting, where you give a 2 week notice, and then they don't show up, and the counter offer doesn't happen right away. They let you think on it. They think on it. And there's probably more meetings, that were discussed about Matt than you ever know. And then, of course, that they gave you a counter.
Yeah. So what had happened was a director had come and kind of asked me to go talk to him in the parking lot, and nothing had happened for a while. And I was like, I wonder if, anything had actually gone up the chain, or if I was just waiting to see what happened. So the letter I printed out, I had emailed to my director just to say like, hey, I don't know if you've heard or not, but, this is my plan. And so he'd actually stopped out and we talked in the parking lot. He goes, I look at your numbers from last year and I want to know why somebody who's worked for this company for so long and has made this much money as a mechanic would leave. Like what's, and I said, well, to be honest, I just am kind of over that, the environment and some of the way things are done and some of the ways we're treated, and I said, it's not necessarily a money thing. I know everybody looks at it as... By
the way, interesting. I've looked at your numbers, Matt. Instead of saying, you're like family, man, how could you leave us? It was, I've looked at your numbers. Now, why would you want to leave that?
Mm-hmm. There was a couple meetings and there was a counteroffer and it was considerable.
Okay.
It was a guaranteed amount of money that was considerable. If you turn over that flat rate, you'll get that money in a check quarterly.
I see.
And it was like, and it will not drop until this date. And then what they would do is for guys that had been there for a long time. And as you progress in certification dealership, you actually start getting less and less work that's profitable because that's left for B-Techs to do that kind of work. And you're stuck with diagnosis and recalls and stuff that pays warranty time a lot of time. So what they were offering was a percentage of last year's money with a quarterly bonus if you turned over that. So I said, that's interesting. I said, I'm not going to just sit here and tell you no in a parking lot. Let me think about it, but, in my head, it was that same scenario of, I didn't walk in there and say I was leaving to go work for a place for more money, and I talked to my wife about it and she was like, that would give us a pretty comfortable life for a few years, at least before you renegotiate it or whatever. And I was like, but that doesn't actually change any of the issues I have.
Brings up a great point. You decided to leave for issues. They're just addressing issues with sterility and numbers and then money and in pay. People make decisions for all kinds of reasons. They make money decisions. They make, cultural decisions, behavioral decisions. You decided to stick to your guns. He showed up, Jim. He didn't ghost you.
I had countered with, if you guys are serious, I said, me and my search manager had a few meetings about some of the way things were going. And I said, if you guys, the three of us want to sit down and I'll bring a list of some of the issues. And I had actually walked around the shop and talked to some guys and said, if I sit down with them and because I know we all have the same issues and that's what makes the bad environment. They're showing up to work and yes, you guys we're laughing, having fun in the shop and this and that, but ultimately a lot of people are not happy, I felt, and so it's like, all right. And they're all the same issues because when you're flat rate, you're all pitted against each other. Like here's a pile of work. Who can do it the fastest? There's only so much work for in a day. So who can do the most work? So I talked to you guys. And so when we sat down, I said, here are some of the things that are not my problem. They're shop problems. I don't necessarily want you guys to think that this is just me. And I said, I've been here a long time. Some people kind of look up to me and I have a good rapport with my managers because I've known them for so long that we can have a real conversation without it being a heated argument.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that part of the conversation was largely ignored and it was mostly talked about the pay again. And some of the answers to the questions that I had lead me to believe that this is going to stay the way it's going to stay. And
you'd earn more money, but you wouldn't be any happier.
I think anybody who has maybe philosophized or thought, has probably come across the saying that if you make choices based off of money, you'll never be happy because perception is everything. So,
well, thanks for taking us down that very inner decision that you made. Really was helpful, I believe, for our industry to hear. Let's talk back about Automotive Alley, tooling, training. Are you happy with all the tools that you have at your disposal?
Yeah, I think we have more than a lot of shops do. I think Jim's invested in a lot of tools that really help and simplify. They also expand the ability of what we can do and not have to send things away because it's not something we can.
I mean, we don't have every tool, but I mean, anyone listening to these podcasts understand what tooling costs and technology and things like that. But I mean, if we see the need for a specific tool and it comes up multiple times and we can sit down and take a look and go, yeah, it's cost effective, don't it? Or how many times have we been put in this position? I mean, we have meetings weekly and we talk about this stuff. And if there's something wrong, put it in the meeting notes and try to address it as soon as we can. It's in a note, so it's not that somebody can say, well, it wasn't talked about. So we try to make sure those are up to date.
Thanks for that, Jim. Training, Matt, have you had any training via Automotive Alley since you've been here?
Yeah, we all went up to a 2-day scope course.
Okay.
For waveform analysis and diagnosis.
You were getting a lot of training at the dealership, or more certifications, as you were mentioning?
We would get training. I was sent out to a regional training facility here and there. Not as much as it could have been, Okay. They pick and choose kind of. Everybody's got to maintain a certain level of certification to do certain jobs. And they need, X amount of levels of each tech to be qualified for certain things.
In our new world since pandemic, Jim,
I was just going to mention
it's been online. Okay. Everything online. What do you think of online training?
That's the majority of the stuff people are going to be doing. That was the majority of my training through the manufacturer was online.
It was. Okay.
Yeah, but then I think you're doing your practicals. The practicals had to be done face-to-face, very similar to some of this online training. The
online training was mostly prerequisites. So the way they went was you were like maintenance certified, I think was the lowest, and then all the way up to master diagnostic. So you could get to a certain level of certification by having all of your online courses done, and then online courses plus ASEs, and online courses plus ASE plus regional training center training.
Got it. What is your opinion of online training?
I don't think it works for everybody, just the way, people learn. I don't mind it. I think everything is great to sit and watch a video on or read about, but until you actually get to do it, it's not necessarily going to help until.
Thank you for being so transparent and open and honest. And I think this is important for the industry to hear someone who's, made the leap after 14 years at a dealership over to an independent, and all the great reasons why you came here and what motivated you to be here. Anything that you want to say that maybe I didn't ask or we didn't talk about?
If anybody was listening to this on that end, not necessarily just leave somebody hanging, but there are other options. If you were burnt out in the industry, whether, and maybe it's the reverse for some people. Maybe some people want to go that way, but there are other options instead of leaving the industry. I know it's been a thing for years that it's hard to find technicians, and you hear all the time about there's not enough of them coming into the industry. But I just think there's other options. There's a lot of aspects to the industry.
They're out there. You just got to motivate them to change. How about you, Jim? Any final words?
One of the key things that I thought was kind of interesting, Matt had said to me in the past, was I feel robbed. He felt that he wasn't using his skill set the way that he should in regards to diagnosis or critical thinking, things like that, where in the dealership he felt that he was more of a factory worker, a lever puller, something of that nature. Not saying that that's a bad job, just saying that was the process that kind of everyone fell into. Coming into the independent world, he has to look at things totally different, universally versus something with a badge. So he kind of hones in his skills a little bit differently.
By the way, that's exactly what you told me 3 or 4 weeks ago. You said Matt felt robbed. and I said, oh, I have to talk to him. So here we are. So thank you for reminding me what was my motivation to want to sit down with both of you, Matt Manzone and Jim Fleischman from Automotive Alley. Thank you guys so much for this. It was great.
Yeah, thanks
Harb. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time.